Singapore is one of the most fascinating countries in the East. It's quite like anything else around it. Historically, it used to be part of Malaysia a long, long time ago. Before that changed, it became its own independent place. It, once upon a time, was even referred to as the gem of the British Empire, which obviously is no longer from years ago. It played a role in World War II. And here it is today, 2023, and it is proof that so many different cultures and so many different religions can all merge and blend and live side by side in absolute harmony, surrounded by what is now an ultra, uber modern city. It's mainly English, but interestingly, there's even a thing that they call Singlish, because there are certain words that they've drawn from the other cultures to make it singularly Singapore. But there's a lot about Singapore, which is different and unique.
Seen an airport terminal like this. This is Terminal 1 at Singapore Airport, and what we're looking at is this incredible sight. The largest indoor waterfall in the world. In a terminal. It's wonderful, it's magnificent. Also in Terminal 1 is, it's outrageous. It's like Disney gone wild. It's fantastic. It's like a park area, and the Christmas tree is up already. And there's a monorail. So this is looking more and more like Disney, but there it is. Monorail going above our heads, which I assume is from terminal to terminal. Music playing in the background. And everybody's staring at this incredible thing, this waterfall. Wow. And right next to this enormous, fantastic waterfall and everything else going on inside this terminal, well, this is a first for me. Class in session, and the class happens to be a spinning class, which of course you expect to see in an international airport, naturally, don't you? This incredible sight is in Terminal 2 of the Singapore International Airport, and apparently this was only opened on the 1st of November this year, 2023, but it is truly something out of tomorrow's world.
To spend a bit of time in Singapore, then try and get to Sentosa. Now, lucky us, we happen to have family who live on Sentosa, so we are seeing the inside story of Sentosa in a way that we otherwise wouldn't have. And it's incredible. It's sort of, there are 64 islands in total in Singapore, and we're looking at a whole lot of them here. And if you see all the ships behind me, you get an idea of how busy this place is. Singapore is officially the second busiest port in the whole world, behind only Shanghai in China. And the trading story goes all the way back to the 13th century. So the history here is remarkable. But what really hits you is the modern day story, because it is an entertainment paradise of note.
This is the resort world of Sentosa, but we just found out that all this beautiful white sand has been brought in from Australia. Well, I guess you're in Singapore, so anything goes. Very different vista to what we've been living in for the last 2 or 3 months in Thailand and Japan. We now find ourselves in Singapore, living with family, actually, and they live in Sentosa, the island off the island of Singapore. And this is our morning promenade through the harbour. island of Sentosa, there was one hell of a storm coming in. It's one of those typical sort of storms that you only get when you're living near to the equator. Rather a dramatic sight, I have to say. We are sitting along with loads of other people on the lawns and on the tarmac in the park to watch the Garden Rhapsody light show that's in the Bay Garden here. And there's these enormous structures above our heads that I assume are going to be used as part of the light show. It's one of the big attractions in Singapore, so of course we had to come and see it. Christmas decorations are up already in Singapore, and I guess the tree is waiting for the big reveal. But look at what they have decorated this tree with. Louis Vuitton bags. Only in Singapore, I would say. This is Christmas on steroids in Singapore. Not that there's going to be any snow, anything cold. Singapore simply doesn't get seasons, not any seasons.
The Buddha Tooth Temple, believe it or not, as it's called, in the middle of Chinatown in Singapore is fascinating. It looks old. It's not. It only dates back to about 2007 and allegedly has a relic, a very important relic, in the form of one of Buddha's teeth that was brought from his funeral pyre in India. But what's important about this is the fact that it is an indication of the complexity of culture that you get in Singapore. And Buddhism is very much one of those areas that is cultivated and encouraged in this very modern city. This is the Hall of 100 Dragons, but in fact, inside the hall, 50 on either side, are 100 Buddhas. And the Buddhist Sutra states that 100 Buddhas have the ability to help the world, and whoever recites, copies, makes offerings, and expounds the 100 holy names with reverence will have his greed, hatred, ignorance, and fear purified. I know, we're back on top of a tower again. I don't know what it is about us and towers, but we see a good tower and we just have to get to the top of it. And when you're in Singapore, that means getting up on top of a very tall hotel called the Marina Bay Sands. It's what people do. It's the famous one with the big towers, 3 towers actually, and then a long slab that floats on top. It is a little bit taller than the Eiffel Tower, and there's an infinity pool that mere mortals like us are not allowed to go and have a look. And it's got something like 2,600 rooms, so it's a colossal piece of hospitality. But importantly, it gives this incredible view of the whole of this tiny country called Singapore, which has the biggest of mega powers and places in the world.
We are at Lau Pa Sat, which they call a hawker's market, their word, not mine. But in fact, it's a very upmarket food court with multiple restaurants, and certainly the scene, the setting for a few movies that we know of that have taken place. So we're going to go in here and explore and find something to eat that is quintessential Singapore. So out of all these choices of restaurants, after walking around, we've settled on this, which is shrimp wonton. There's the shrimp wontons, and char siu, I think they call it, which is effectively roast pork noodle combination. Billy's got a rose lychee drink, and I've gone for the coconut. We are surrounded by lots of noise, lots of people eating, loads and loads of these kiosks in high humidity and heat, and it is absolutely wonderful. a lot of Art Deco in this particular neighborhood. Most of what you're seeing was built just after the war, sort of late 1940s, 50s. And it was part of the renovation and rehabilitation of Singapore after the World War. And there are the bird hanging devices of Bird Corner. And the story is that the original owner of this spot of land was a coffee shop owner, and he used to hang his birds up here in cages to attract attention. And the local community started bringing their own birds until it became a thing. And this eventually became something called Bird Corner. And everybody used to bring their birds, hang them up in cages, hang out with coffee, and commune. Al, just walk with me. What is the name of this market that we're in?
This is Thiong Bahru market.
Thiong Bahru.
Yeah.
Is it like the go-to fresh market?
There's lots of these around, but this is our favourite.
Oh, okay.
This is, so we get chicken from here, the pork from over there, the fish from behind you, the vegetables from across the way.
This section of the market they call the hawkers market. So differentiating from the actual food stuff, they're selling the processed or cooked food. And different connotation of the word hawkers market to what I'm used to. But there's almost no tourists. I'm told that this is the place that the locals live, eat, hang out as a family. It's the week of Diwali in the Singapore area. We are in Little India, and it's incredible. The whole of the area is alive with this kind of activity, and the lights and the decoration are astonishing on a very, very big scale. So many different cultures and so many different foods, but we're going Indian tonight in Singapore because that's what we've been told to do, that Little India is the place to be.
We are in Chiat at the moment, which is a very different view of Singapore to the high-rise buildings that we've been seeing so far. We had to come and visit here because of the history. It got its name from a gentleman who was a plantation worker and eventually became a very wealthy plantation owner. And it is an area of mixed cultures, all a melting pot. And what makes it so interesting is it's retained its architecture from the pre-war days. Most of these little places behind me are what they call shop houses. So the retailers live here and have done for many years and work here as well. It's fascinating and it's got a very different vibe. And any minute now, we are in Singapore on the equator. It's starting to rain and we're about to have an equatorial storm. Perfect for our day in Singapore.
Apparently puppies and pussycats, but mainly the dogs, are very much a part of life here in Singapore, particularly in Chiat. And everywhere we look, we sort of see places for for the pets who are royally treated. This looks like a photographic studio for puppy family members. Okay, that's new on me. Breakfast at Fluffy's. I like that. Oh, here's a new favorite. That doggy in the window. Subtitle, Retail Therapy. Retail Therapy. I just realized what they're saying. One of the many incredibly friendly people we met in Singapore is Francis, who's just told us how to navigate a very important bridge and shown us all sorts of other things we should be seeing. Thank you. Singapore's really been good to us. We're walking the Henderson Wave bridge, and this sky-top, treetop sort of bridge goes on forever. We're just doing a portion of it, just so that we can enjoy the view, the incredible view of Singapore. Fort Siloso, on the very sort of heading towards the absolute tip of the peninsula at Sentosa. And they've turned the whole thing into a sort of interactive museum with recreations and exhibits that show what it would have been like during World War II. And as history showed, mainly the British got ready for attack from sea by the Japanese, and instead, famously or infamously, they invaded from the land side.
You up there, get on the car. Right, now the fire direction crew is choosing targets and directing the fire of the guns. The enemy hasn't come by sea as we thought, so they're firing on the oil installations on Pulau Bukom to make sure the enemy doesn't get them. Observe fire. Hit. Hit.
top of Singapore, Billy, there's a bell. I don't know whether we're allowed to ring it, but what do you think? Okay. Oh, we have yet to find a bell that you cannot help but ring. Our last day. A Singaporean bell. One more ring. Perfect. The bell atop Singapore.